Hello everyone and welcome to the Dental Podcast from Denplan. My name's Tom and today I have the pleasure in introducing an interview from November 2020 where our business development consultant Kenny Fraser spoke with Sarah Hoggins, principal owner at Beech Dental.
Hi Sarah, how are you?
I'm very well, Kenny. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, just adapting to working from home the majority of my days, which is very strange. You'll be thankful you don't have any patients turning up to your house to
That would be interesting.
Very different way of doing it.
Yes, I'd have my very interesting dental tools, bits of Lego. That would be different.
That would be interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so would you like to just introduce yourself a little bit more, give a bit of background, what kind of where you've come from, what your qualifications are, what practice you work in, and tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Sarah Hoggins, and I work in a practice in Ripon called Beech Dental Practice, and I've worked there since 2005 when I qualified. And I qualified at Leeds Uni, but I'm originally from North Wales. So moved over to uni and then just stayed here because we like it so much.
Good. And how do you find working in Ripon?
It's a lovely city. I say city like that because, it's teeny weeny, but It's a lovely little city. And that's why I've not left, because it's really nice. And the people are lovely.
So just remind me, how long have you been a Denplan member and dentist?
Well, when I first joined the practice, I started seeing a very few Denplan patients. It was mainly NHS, but I saw like a handful then, and then later on upped my numbers.
Okay. And that's been since you started, so it's been a few years now, Ripon, isn't it?
Yeah, 15.
15.
Yeah. I just did the maths. I forget what year it is.
I think we all do. So I wouldn't worry.
2020 is an odd one. Yes.
Yes, it's a strange one. Start again, 2021. We'll start again.
Yeah.
Good. So since you decided to sort of become more of a Denplan dentist as and develop your patient numbers, we've spoken quite regularly over the last couple of years. So we've spoken and caught up quite a lot. And obviously I've seen your numbers go through the roof realistically. Do you want to, before we look at maybe some of the specific numbers, you want to give me some of your your objectives, if you like, what your goals were when it came to increasing those Denplan numbers? Why did you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a baby. He's 4 now, so he's actually a toddler. And I think that changed my life perspective. And I thought, no, I'm not going to continue on this ridiculous NHS treadmill anymore. I want to be able to concentrate more on my patients and my own life. And that was my deciding factor, really.
Yeah. Okay. And how did the patients take to that change?
I think very well, actually. They were all pretty positive. There's always going to be the odd people that decide not to go Denplan, decide not to stay with you, or decide that's the time they want to move down south and move away from you. That's fine.
But that doesn't happen, very often, I'd imagine. Who would want to move away from Ripon?
Who would want to move away?
Yeah. So in general terms, just based on 2020, because we've obviously touched on it, it's hard to avoid. How have you found patients in the practice? How have you coped with the last 6, 7, 8 months?
It's been the weirdest 6 or 7 months in dentistry. I could never have imagined it. I could never have imagined speaking to so many patients over the phone, not seeing people. My patients haven't actually seen my actual face in 6 months. I know, I've got a very expressive face.
And that's what they're paying for. That's obviously
exactly why they pay to see my face, not to just see a mask and a visor. So it's very strange. Yeah. And I think a lot of the patients were nervous about coming into the practice because it is a higher risk environment. But I think they've been reassured. They all seem pretty positive again and glad to get back in the swing of things. It seems like this is going to sound really strange, a really nice trip out for them. It's the place they actually get to go out and see people, and if we can make that pleasant, that's nice.
Good. Excellent. Let's leave 2020 to one side for a minute. So go back to 2018. I remember we had a conversation, probably, I say September, October, I'm not sure for definite, but probably September. about you effectively potentially converting the NHS patients that you had. So you've talked about your sort of work-life balance. Was there anything else that was part of the deciding factors in terms of why you wanted to move away from the NHS? What other benefits did you see?
Well, I wanted to be able to reduce the days that I worked in practice, but still earn enough money to be able to pay my mortgage and feed my child. That's helpful. Yeah. Yep. But also I did want to do some other things. I felt very stuck NHS wise. There is no incentive to further your skills, you know, do different things. So I've been able to do other courses that I would never have been able to do before.
Okay. Was there anything specific about, the conversation we had? Was there anything specific in terms of why Denplan you felt was the best way to go in terms of transitioning away from the NHS?
I mean, it's a really recognisable name, which I think helps with the patient conversion. You know, it does what it says on the tin. It's a dental plan. Boom. They know what it is. You know, I don't need to over-explain that to people. That's fine. And it's an easy way to spread the cost over the year rather than just full-on private, boom, this is how much everything's going to be. It's much easier to spread the costs and justify it that way.
So would you feel that or do you think that they can, not so much better treatment as such, but they get access to you, they get more time with you? Do they feel more satisfied that they're part of a plan?
Yeah, definitely. They're getting more time, they're getting to come back more frequently. And, you know, I have got now a range of skills that I didn't have before because I've got the time to do it.
Good. Casting my mind back, so back in November, I think we sent the mailing out, so we discussed the letter. We looked at different ways to do it. We discussed it. So the initial mailing went out, I think, middle of November. Yeah. From my reckoning, I think you got to about 50% of your target by the beginning of February. You hit the ground running. You were out of the traps like a rocket. Was there anything particular that you think made that happen? What was the response like in those first 2 or 3 months from the patients?
It was insane. Yes. Yeah. Really, really positive, but everybody wanted to speak to me, and that was fine for me. I'm much better person to person than in a letter. So I didn't mind having that personal touch, talking to every patient, whether they wanted it over the phone or face to face. And I think that personal touch really helped. They appreciated the honesty that I could give them face to face.
And they obviously got the option to speak to anybody else in the practice in terms of reception, and obviously there was a couple of other staff were kind of given a little bit more additional training and support to make sure that speed they can deal with some of those conversations if you were busy in surgery or if you weren't working that day. Yes. So there was quite a lot of support in terms of giving the patients access to the information that they need.
Wendy and Carly were invaluable. They were fantastic, both of them.
Yes. Yeah. Good. Excellent. So in terms of, you've made that change, you've seen your numbers increase rapidly, to be honest, and up until so beginning of this year, they've just kept growing month on month. What does that feel like for you now on a normal day? Because your days are obviously very different from what they used to be when you're an NHS dentist. How does it?
I have a happy day. It's nice. No, in all honesty, it's what I was trying to explain to somebody the other day. But the patients that are coming to see you, they have chosen to come and see you. So most people are pretty happy, and if they're happy, I'm happy. It's a knock-on effect. So it's a much nicer day. I've got longer appointments, so I can spend more time talking to them if that's what they want, or more time doing a procedure if that's what they want. It's just a generally nicer, more relaxed pace.
Yeah. Okay. It's the pace. That's the working environment. That's the kind of patient feedback. They all seem fairly happy. Let's not, forget the financial side of it. It can be quite daunting from an NHS dentist point of view to look at. You might want to go private. How did you feel about it before it happened, and how do you feel about it now, sort of 2 years down the line?
I was certainly apprehensive. I was very keen to go private, but financially the concerns are always going to be high. I had worked for the NHS for a very long time and brought in good money on the NHS. You know, I had lots of UDAs to do, lots of reliable patients, churning them through all the time, absolutely fine. And you know, making good money on it. But I think now looking back, I wish I'd done it sooner, because I've cut down from 4 days to 3 days, but I'm on probably more money than I was on before.
So that benefits everybody, more Lego for your son, and things
exactly. But it makes Christmas easy. What are we having? 65,000 Legos. Great.
Excellent. Well, yeah. Who doesn't need Lego in their life?
There is never too much Lego.
There's never too much Lego. I would agree with that completely. So you're obviously happy, relaxed. Imagine that filters down to your son and all the additional Lego that he can have from your patients.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just in terms of patients, I mean, this year is obviously very unusual, so just kind of bringing that into the mix again. How have your patients been in terms of obviously they joined up to the plan, February, March hit, lockdown happened. What kind of impact has that had? And what were your initial kind of thoughts and fears about it back in March on your plan patients?
I mean, in March, I was very worried that everybody was going to cancel. Yes. And some people did cancel, which is fine, and I understand. But I would have to say that more people have joined up than cancelled, which is great. And I think overall, most patients didn't even notice that lockdown had happened with regards to their dental care. And the people that did notice, who have rung up to speak to me personally or have come in since for a checkup to speak about it, can understand why it was the way it was, that we couldn't, you know, see them for checkups, but we were there for emergency care. And when we were there seeing emergencies, they appreciated that, even if it was just a phone call.
Yeah. So the list has been fairly stable. As you mentioned, hardly any patients have off. There's obviously going to be some, depending on their circumstances. By the same token, like you did mention, you've had quite a lot of joiners over the last few months. So would you say that patients are seeing the benefits of a payment plan in general, even coming out of lockdown number one?
People are ringing up for it all the time.
Okay.
People want to join a plan because people cannot access NHS care, are desperate to get on something where they can find it affordable and easy to understand. So yeah, people are really keen to join a plan.
Good. Yeah. Any specific feedback from patients now that they've been on a plan for 2 years? Was there any skeptics at the beginning who maybe weren't sure if they were going to stay on it long term? Now they've had 2 years of experience, have changed their minds?
Of course. Everybody's skeptical. Everyone. But I would have to say I've had more people join that had originally decided to go private or stay NHS with another dentist and have come back to me and joined a plan rather than decided to come off Denplan and go on pay as you go. I actually can't think of anybody that's done that. So, I mean, overall, the feedback has been great. People like coming back more frequently. They like to be able to have a scale and polish more often. They like being able to see me for longer. It's mostly positive.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. And you can see that in the patient numbers, it's still increasing. And like we said, the list has been fairly stable. There's very few patients that have dropped off. So I think the proof is in the pudding there in terms of your overall numbers. Just in terms of the transition itself, so that as you mentioned, it was quite intense. It was quite busy. Certainly the first months could be very busy. As that first initial letter lands, in terms of making sure that it's as successful as possible and as smooth as possible, what do you think the practice did to make sure that you got through those first few months and everything went as well as it did? The
practice?
Yeah.
Well, Wendy and I worked very hard and Carly helped, and then you helped a great deal.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You did. You were there at our beck and call for any advice, which going into things, I already knew quite a bit about Denplan, but you know, there are always questions. Patients are always going to think of those questions that you have never thought of in a million years. And you were always there to answer them, even if it was just a text. That was very helpful and reassuring.
Good, thank you. And you always made me very welcome every time I did come, as long as I went with something slightly sugar-filled and slightly...
If you brought us a sugary treat, you were always very welcome.
I was. If I didn't, then I wouldn't get in the door. So, pretty much, yeah. So just I'm going to start to sort of wrap up a little bit. So just describe the transition process. So if you were to talk to another dentist who's thinking about it, or just speaking to a friend that you qualified with and they were unsure, not sure really where to go with it and how to start it, how would you describe in sort of 3 or 4 main sort of easy bullet points for them to how they would go about transitioning away from the NHS?
So I think firstly they should plan how they want to do it. And that would have to be a specific plan tailored for their patients. They know their patients the best. How will their patients deal with it? So plan ahead, letter, personalised, whatever. And then forward thinking, how are you going to deal with patients long term with a plan? And then be positive.
Be positive, as you are all the time. Yeah. Most days. The days you're in surgery. Yeah. Sarah, I wanted to touch on some of the differences between what you would have experienced in the past. You were an NHS dentist for quite a few years, and obviously now you're fully private. In terms of the compliance and the regulation side of it, from an NHS point of view, it can be quite intense. What kind of differences do you see now that you're entirely a Denplan dentist?
I mean, there's fewer hoops to jump through, ticky boxes and silly things that you just have to complete all the time with the NHS bit. Denplan-wise, it's much easier. You can just get on, be more patient-focused, concentrate and put all your efforts into caring for the patients and what they need.
Excellent. And just on that point, caring for the patients and what they need, why did you choose to become a dentist in the first place? That's probably a really important question.
This is very strange, but I've always wanted to be a dentist since as far back as I can remember. And I can only think that I did have a lovely dentist when I was a child. My dad was a GP, and I saw my dad doing on-call all the time, being called out in the middle of the night. That was not for me. So I'm going to be a dentist. That's what I'll do.
Okay, yeah, well, that's fine, and it's worked, and you've done it, and you've been very good at it, so excellent.
And I still enjoy it as well.
Well, that comes
enjoy my job, so it's amazing.
That does come across. You'd be surprised. It's fairly evident that you do enjoy your job, which is I would say, I didn't know you particularly well before the conversion, but I would imagine there's probably a change you would see, or some of your friends and family would see from. Based on the kind of work-life balance sort of stuff and having more time to focus on your son. So I would imagine that you have changed potentially over the last 18 months to 2 years in terms of, because you've got a slightly different day-to-day working environment.
Yes.
Excellent.
Change.
So just to summarise then, words, 3 short phrases, 3 words.
Yeah.
How would you describe the transition process and the Denplan support that you've had over the last 2 years?
I mean, I could say easier than expected.
Okay.
That, but really, it was really busy, intense, and rewarding.
Rewarding. Good. Yeah. And you're still smiling, which is awesome. And you were smiling throughout. It wasn't just. You were smiling during the middle of the transition. You were smiling
during speaking to loads and loads of people. Yeah,
loads and loads of people. But they wanted to speak to you, which I think is a testament to the relationship you had with them. That they wanted to have a conversation with you before they made any final decisions.
Yeah,
and I think that worked very well. So, and the proof is in the numbers. The numbers are excellent, and we're all the way through it, and they still are 2 years down the line, despite everything we've experienced this year.
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, it's been lovely to speak to you again, as it always is. This time without masks. Was the last time.
No. There's my face.
I know, and I still have one as well.
No.
have to have a bit of a trim because I was going to not have a mask on today. But thank you for your time. Thank you for the support and the hard work that you've put in over the last 2 years, because we appreciate everything that you've done as well. Thank you very much for.
Well, thank you as well, Kenny. You've been a gem.
To wrap up today's episode, I'd like to thank Sarah and Kenny again. Don't forget to subscribe to ensure every episode is delivered to your feed on release day. If you'd like to hear more from us, be sure to follow us at Denplan on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening.